It's the year 2026 and the Stormers keep on winning. Let's start the show. Welcome back to Bit of an Animal, the South African rugby podcast here on the Global Gain Lines. Fresh year, we took a bit of a break. We recorded the URC rewind last night. The pod squad's back. We joined by a new face in Sibusiso. Jean, welcome back. Shout out to Jean and Temikosi for holding the pod down while I was away focusing on my day job. And yeah, shout out to Temikosi and Lisa B and Paul, who was supposed to join us, the Stormer supporter who couldn't make it this evening. Sibusiso, this is the first time on this podcast, but you have been on my friend's Arsenal podcast, so you're a Gooner and a Lions supporter. Tell our audience about yourself.
Sibusiso, born and raised in Johannesburg, but I live in Centurion now. Supported Lions from high school. Like you said, I'm a Guna as well. Yeah, so I've been following Lions from, I think my first time at the stadium watching the Lions was in 1994. It was Queensland versus the Lions. There's actually 95, sorry. Queensland Reds versus the Lions. It was the final of the Super Rugby. I think the Lions lost there. I've been following the Lions ever since. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah, who was the Lions coach back then? Lofi Elof or?
No, not Lofi. Lofi was with the under 21s in the 90s, 98, 99. So he was not coaching the Lions then. I can't remember who was the Lions coach then. I think that day, the biggest thing that happened on that day, it was actually a trial for Nas Porter to actually get into the 95 World Cup.
Oh, wow.
And apparently Kitch Christie watched 4 minutes of it and he said it was enough. He was not interested in putting him on. And that was it. So I can't remember who was the coach then, but I think a large percentage of that team was actually the Springbok team that actually won the World Cup. Because the front row, which was, I think we had, the entire front row was the Springbok, which was Bali Swart. It was Bali Swart and Chris Rousseau. I think the other guy was actually at the Cheetahs, which was Osturan.
Oh, yeah.
And they also had Kobus Visa was there, Gavin Johnson was there, Johan Roux and Henny Leroux was there, Yapi Mulder was in that team. Yeah, it was literally a large percentage of the guys that actually won the 95 World Cup.
And then Oosterrand went on to win the 2007 World Cup under Jake White.
Yep.
Also, that's the original Kobus Visa, not the new one who's playing for the Bulls.
Not that one. Kobus with the K.
Yeah. No, the new one's Kobus with the C. Jasper Visser's younger brother. Much bigger younger brother. All right, guys. So we've got 2 games to review and then 5 games to preview. So let's get stuck in. The first game to review is the Stormers defeating the Bulls with a last-minute try. 2 last-minute tries this week. So usually we'd go with the person whose team wins, but Lisa B is not here and Paul's not here. So we're going to go with you, Sibusiso, and you'll give your thoughts on the game, considering you're new to the podcast.
Okay. For me personally, that game felt like a test match. I mean, it was pretty close. It felt quite very tactical game. I mean, we didn't get the first point until quite late in the first half. I think it was over 20 minutes when we got the first point. And it just showed that, I mean, you had the Bulls that had 7 Springboks in their front row. I think it was 11 in the starting lineup, with 4 in the back line and 7 in the forward line. And it showed that they are quite good up front, but at the end of the day, they struggled actually maintaining their momentum with against maybe the crowd played a big role in actually helping the Stormers. But yeah, it was quite a test match for me, and I think it would have went to anyone at the end of the day, just like what happened in Durban. But the Stormers actually fought it through at the end. Yeah.
John, your thoughts on the Bulls unfortunately losing this game?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot to unpack with the Bulls. We've been through it's been a turbulent time. I mean, the media presence has been I mean, it was what the week before Christmas, two assistant coaches were asked to leave. A day later, we get told that we're getting a new assistant coach. De Bruyne is coming in. So there's now at least the brains of the operation at Loftus, so things should be going well. And then we get the news that the Bok Moby coaching unit will be making a turn there. Then there was the blow up because everyone thinks that this the Bok coaches are going to come in, get the Bulls into shape so that they beat the Stormers. Then the Bulls come out and they say, listen, everyone's on holiday. No one's coming here until at least mid-January. So can everyone just calm down? So I think it was a very distracted week or distracted period with a lot going on beyond the players. And one thing that sort of told me, if you buy a secondhand boat or you end up with a secondhand piece of furniture that's made of wood, they often say you need to cut away the dead wood. And I think Ackerman sort of went after the previous match. He sort of went, listen, this is where there's some dead wood. It's not fitting where I want to go with this team. And I think once that moved away, and asking yourself to do a lot of coaching is one thing, but at least then you've got a unified voice, which I think might not have been happening. You've got two guys who are used to a different style of coaching. Their relationship with the players might not have been great. We don't know. So now there's friction between the assistant coaches and the players, and the new coach and the assistant coaches maybe haven't gelled 100%. So I think that's why we saw this intensity and Sibusiso is 100%. This was test match rugby. It was like one team is driving their way up the field, then the defending team gets a turnover, then they drive their way to the opposite side of the field, then swings back around, goes the other way, and it was sort of like punch and counter punch the whole time. Um, I think at the end of the day, where the Bulls lost this match was the two missed penalties. I mean, if we call Andre Pollard clutch king, missing two penalties, that's the 6 points you need to win by one, right? And it was more than two missed kicks. I think there was three missed kicks in total from the Bulls, and that sort of, you know. I know Andre Pollard and he's spoken about it. He says you can't let these things get to you. It happens. But I'm hoping he starts finding that groove with the Bulls because I think for the Bulls, they've got this monster forward pack right now. They've got a lot of good loosies. They've got Ulrich Low, Hanekom, um, uh, Marco van Staden, lots of good loosies who can contend for the ball. Akker van der Merwe. You're going to get those penalties. Though that's going to be your way to stay in contention. It's going to force the opposition team. And one thing that really stood out to me, one was the Bulls had they had pretty good possession. There wasn't that many knock-ons. They were playing I want to say a very stripped down game. Like we're not going to try and be flashy, but there was a move where they pulled where Stravino Jacobs came in from on an outside line, and the pass looks like it's going to someone else, and he just hits that ball at full tilt, gets past the first defender, second guy has to take him down, and immediately off of that, they run the same move in the opposite direction with the other wing. And having like that's a amazing 1-2 punch. If the Stormers defense was not up and awake, that's through. That's 5 points. You're gone. And for the Bulls having all their Springboks on the field, it certainly helped the Stormers that they had the likes of Willemse, SFM, Kobus Reinagh also on the field to sort of counter that forward pack by saying, let's level the field by bringing our back line a step above. Because I think in terms of forward packs, you can say the Bulls might edge it, but in terms of backlines, the Stormers are just that much smoother in how they operate right now. But I think it's a promising sign. I think this is the game we'll look back on in 3, 4 months' time and we'll say we should have known that this was the turnaround point for the Bulls. Even though it's a loss, this is the point where we could see, listen, it's not going to be the same old story of the Bulls trying to outscore everyone. Now you got to work to get a score on the Bulls. And I think that tells a story in and of itself.
There's a lot going on at the Bulls. Much expected from them because they made the grand final last season. Exactly the thinking of just changing the head coach but not changing the assistants doesn't seem to be that smart in terms of do you really want to have success and that type of thing. And it's not like they didn't have the money to change the coaches. Why they couldn't get Ackerman in and him the exact specifics of why they couldn't get Ackerman in and have him bring his own people in. Maybe he didn't want to. He spent some time. Maybe he was just more amenable to working with the assistants. But a fresh start seems to have would have been more logical. So like a clean slate of coaches and stuff with this very talented playing staff. On the Stormers side, Dobson was mentioning in the post-match press conference of like him being very proud of the fact that they've used 41 players across these 10 matches this season, which is very impressive. The Stormers rotating a lot. Damien Williams is starting at inside center was great. This guy can play really high level rugby at fly off, inside center, fullback. Did he have the best of game? Maybe not, but he is coming back from a long term sort of not playing for a bit, so he'll find his form eventually. There was one other aspect. Yeah. Oh, the Stormers were talking about in the post match press conference about like sort of Project 29, which means that if you play in the URC, you play 18 regular season games, and then you would play three postseason games, which is 21 games in total. That's if you make the grand final. And if you play in an EPCR tournament like the Champions Cup, you would then, or even if you drop into the Challenge Cup, you make it all the way to the final. That's an additional 8 games. So the Stormers are trying to be in position to play all 8 games. And what I like was Dobson was saying like we're not going to freak out if we're unbeaten now 10 games, but we're not going to freak out if we lose a game because losing a game, we're not going to try and lose a game, but losing a game here and there um, almost sets you up better for the playoffs, that type of thing. Sibusiso, in particular, which Stormers players stood out for you and any other thoughts on the game before we move on?
Um, no, no, no. I don't think there's anyone who actually stood out for me because I think the main thing which was mentioned earlier was the three missed kicks because that's basically the moment that actually stood out for me in the game. The fact that Pollard, I mean, Mr. Clutch himself would miss three kickable thingy penalties and a conversion because he left 8 points on the field, and that would have been actually the difference on the day since it was a very close game. So I think that is the moment that stood out for me that Pollard actually missed very, very, very easy kicks for his standard. It's actually easy kicks to actually slot in, and those were 8 points. And if you look at the margin, it was very small margins game. So yeah, so that's basically what stood out for me.
Interesting that Nchunu, who scored the winning try, recently recruited to the Stormers from the Sharks, looking very solid in scrummaging all of a sudden. Maybe the coaching is sort of upskilling him at the Stormers, or maybe just living in Cape Town is agreeing with him. Interestingly enough, both teams didn't change their fly-offs. They did have reserve fly-offs on the bench, Yuri Matea, and for the Bulls they had Keegan Johannes, but they stuck with the Pollard and Sasha Feinberg and Gomez Zulu, which was like a very good sort of head-to-head. Oh yeah, by the way, Stormers almost sold this game out. They were just short by like 1,500. So it's a 55,000 seater stadium, and they got 53,500 people into the stadium. I was in the sort of waterfront precinct, and there were a lot of people headed to the Stormers game, but first sort of like shopping around and stuff. I saw like a mom and a dad, but the mom and the dad were wearing Stormers shirts, but the kids were both wearing Bulls shirts. So not quite sure what's happening there. Maybe the grandparents bought them that shirts. I don't know. We move now on to the Sharks versus Lions game, where the Lions overcame the Sharks with a last-minute try from much heralded superstar of the under-20 scene, Hashim Peed. Again, we'll go to you first, Sibusiso, because you are actually a Lions supporter. You're the third Lions supporter we've had on this podcast. It's regular Teminkosi. It's highly thought after journalist Jan de Koning, and now yourself. Your thoughts on the game in Durban?
I think the game was quite surprising. The way it started, I think the Lions actually caught the Sharks by surprise. And if you look at the lineups, I mean, the Lions has about 4 Springboks. So on Fenter, Asenati, Grappies, and Kwanahon. And then you look at the Sharks, it's literally the entire Springboks and World Cup winning players. And the game, how it started with us getting a try from ATN, it was actually nice. And actually, the first point was Chris Smith with the penalty. And then we got a try from ATN. And then I think the second try for us to actually start and have 15 points against 15 points to nothing against the Sharks, it was quite surprising. And I knew that the guys would get overzealous and very excited. That's why discipline almost cost us. I mean, if you look at Juan Fenta almost trying to decapitate Fassi, he almost actually took out his head. And then we played with like 14 men for like 20 minutes. And then the Sharks came back because there was a time when discipline actually cost us a try. What happened was we got a penalty and it was reversed because of chipping. And then the Sharks actually went on and kicked it to the corner and they actually scored, of which is something Cash needs to sort out with the guys. And then it was nice to see Hashim, but he still didn't get as much minutes as I would like him to play. Hopefully with Hlekani now in the team, hopefully he'll also get minutes. So yeah, overall, I was very impressed with the Lions, the way they fought back for the win and how they actually hustled the Sharks. It was quite impressive. Hopefully they'll continue on this path. And to think that a team with the least Springboks to win 2 out of 3 derbies, it was actually 2 out of 3 derbies is actually quite impressive. So yeah, hopefully next derby we're gonna smash the Bulls again.
Yeah, because you've defeated the Bulls, you've defeated the Sharks, but unfortunately you lost to the Stormers, there's no shame in that because everybody loses to the Stormers.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the starting 15 of the Sharks, there's Oxen Che, Bongi and Banambi, Siya Kolisi, who's playing fantastic. Siya Kolisi plays I almost said super rugby. He plays URC and non-test rugby as if he's got so much test experience that it's almost easy. So then it's Kolisi versus Tuka's been in and out of he's got 1 official cap and 1 unofficial cap. Had a good game. Nice to see Manu Tuka score a try from 8. Sharks going with a 6-2 split, but still not winning. Grant Williams playing the whole game. That's interesting. Grant Williams played the whole game, but Jane Hendricks came on. Yeah, and then Marcus Solomon Pimpy, Jordan Index got test experience. Andre Steson's regular in the current team. Ditto for Ethan Hooker. Edwin van der Merwe's sort of there and thereabouts, and Apalele Fassi's time with the Springboks has been curtailed because of injury, unfortunately. Nice to see that JP sort of backing the young props on the Sharks on the bench, even though we did have Sebo Glamini from the Griquas captain, Currie Cup winning captain Sebo Glamini in the Sharks setup, but he's now playing in Wales. Corne Raal's back, which is fantastic because he really missed his knee up in the Currie Cup, trying to save a try. Pepsi Buthelezi came off the bench, playing on the flank, and then Nick Hatton as well. Sia Masuku unfortunately didn't get any game time, coming back from injury. On the Lions side of things, I would like to shout out Eddie Davids, another Griquas Currie Cup winning player. Jean, did you have a chance to catch this game, or what are your thoughts?
I caught some of it, and I caught some of the highlights as well. Um, the thing for me that's becoming a trend with the Lions is they play their best against SA teams, and then they able to squeeze out a couple of clutch games for like the um for like the Challenge Cup. They get in a surprise win or two, but then they sort of falter the rest of the time. Like they're focused on that 20%, the final 20%, but they're not always ensuring that the 80% gets covered. And it's not because they're not trying, and I struggle to put my finger on it. One thing that I do know for sure is that I think they need a fly off. I really think they need a good fly off. I think that's where they are getting kneecapped the most. They've got a decent scrum. Their forwards are strong. They've got guys who will do the dirty work for you, sun up to sundown. I think the problem there is just very simple. They don't have a good fly off, and it sort of rings true. At least in my opinion, it rings true at the Sharks as well. So much of what makes the Sharks great is running through Esterhuizen or Fassi or based off of nine. And I mean, if you didn't see Hashim Pete coming in and I would have played him at minute 65. Minute 65, he would have been on. I don't care who your nine is. Here comes a 22-year-old fresh off of winning not only the 20, under 21s Rugby World Cup, but the Rugby Championship as well. You know he's fast, you know he's deadly. Like it's a bit of a tactical nuance thing. I mean, sitting there looking at that lineup, you see that you're like, listen, I need to put a nine on the bench who can counter this guy, or I need to be able to put someone on the bench to put him in a box, someone who can defend him. And then when that sub happens, that's like a tripwire for you to make your sub. And that guy, when he goes on, knows my job is to keep him in a box. I have to stick with him. I have to make his life difficult. I have to mess up the way he wants the game to go. And you know, I think that was a bit of a tactical slip up by the Sharks, and that's the scoreline you get for tactical slip ups, 23-22. You know, so the Sharks, though, interesting journey. They did score 4 tries, only got one conversion, didn't take any kickable penalties, which is strange. So, you know, going for the tries, I get that. It gives you good points. But then the Lions they played smart, and we often see that again comes back to test match rugby. If you stay within punching distance into the last 15, 20 minutes, there's every opportunity to get that 1 point or the points needed to win by one or win by two or win by three. So I think the Sharks played really, really, really clever tactically to say we know where we can beat them, we know where we can't beat them, and we're going to push our areas and we're going to try and limit their areas. Yeah, and I mean, Sibusiso said the red card, you can't really argue with that. I mean, that was going to be a red. Um, I, I think even if you played it at local club rugby level, you'd get a talking to and a card to say, listen, go sit in the car, think about what you did, because that's not that very cool. But yeah, I think our local derbies, for the first time in a long time, were properly exciting matches. It wasn't a blowout of the Bulls running away of the Lions or the Sharks running away with the Stormers or vice versa. I think it shows you the health of how good our clubs can be when they really put the meat to the metal. And I find it very exciting that this is the type of matches we can produce. I just hope we can carry these results forward into our other competitions.
Yeah, even the games before this round, before the break, that we weren't able to cover because we were also the podcast itself was on a break where the Lions unfortunately fell short against the Stormers, and then the Bulls lost that Shark Fest in Durban. Even those games were very exciting. Um, as it relates to the depth chart at the Sharks in terms of fly off, so we have Jordan Hendricks who's our out and out first choice. The annoying part is he's also the second choice, the second best fullback. Is Apalele Fasi is there. Hashim Kunene I do rate, but he burst on the scene and he struggled a little. There's also Jaco Williams who might be able to play fullback, but still extremely young. So fly off, it's Jordan Hendricks, it's Siama Suku. Um, I obviously rate Vusi Moyo very highly, but he's still got another season of under 20 with the Springbok under 20s to play. So it was his first season he already won the World Cup, so he's going to go try for a double, which very few people get to do. No South African team has ever done that, or South African players ever done that. So only New Zealand players have that honor of having won two back-to-back Junior World Cups. So we wish him the best. There's another very young, very small fly off from the Sharks that is now with a seven system, a very interesting surname. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it starts with a G, so anybody in the comments can let us know. I personally think that the only SA team with like I actually rate Chris Smith, and we look at the Lions depth chart. I'll let Sibusiso unpack it a bit more, but I'm well aware that it's Chris Smith, it's Geo Lombard, and they did have Kate Voliter, but then he jumped ship and he went drove down the N1 to the Bulls. So it's Smith, Gio Lombard, and who else? Sibusiso. There's a third one I'm thinking of. I think you're
I
on mute.
actually forgot his name.
Yeah,
I was on mute. I forgot his
yeah, no,
name.
no,
He's a black guy.
yeah.
I just forgot.
Oh yeah, Lulubala Dobela. Yeah, bro, he used to play for
Yeah,
Griquas. He's 27. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's good. So the thing is that I think that the only of the four SA teams, the only team who's got like as much as I rate Andre Pollard, he's waning now and his ability has got a lot of mileage on him. And what is funny to me is that I think it was like a year and a half ago I saw like on a social media page, obviously not Reddit because people are a bit more informed on Reddit, but I think it was Facebook where somebody wrote like, "Oh, thank God, Andre Pollard's so one-dimensional." And I'm like, nobody remembers Derek Hougaard and Morne Steyn. Andre Pollard's one-dimensional. Andre Pollard is like. Okay, yes, is he as dynamic as Sasha Feinberg and Ngomezulu? No, but like that's how rugby evolves. Sibusiso, what are your thoughts on your depth chart at fly off at the Lions?
Say that again.
What are your thoughts on do you rate your depth chart at fly off at the Lions? Do you think you've got three solid options?
Nah, I don't think I just forgot his name. The Bulls fan. What's his name?
The guy who went to the Bulls.
No, I'm talking about the guy who's on
Oh,
the panel.
Jean, yeah. Oh, Jean,
John.
yeah.
Like John
Oh,
said,
yeah. Global gain
the
line.
Lions don't. No, like John said,
Yeah.
we don't have quite depth because I was actually furious when Moyo actually left from Tears to the Sharks because
Ah, yeah.
I thought maybe he's gonna actually become someone who's gonna be groomed into that position because after Nohamba left, I mean he played fly off and scrum half. After Nohamba left, then it was Lubawalo and Kate. Like Kate just left for the Bulls, and now we have Chris. So it's we do need a clever fly half, and this kid is quite young, El Zaido. He's still in the development, and I think he also has a contract with the Sevens.
Mm.
So he's also the same age as your Moyos, and because they were in the same team, I think he was a late call up to join the under 20s. So yeah, so I don't think we have good depth today, but maybe if you can recruit elsewhere for fly off, then that would be good. That'd be quite
In
awesome.
in an ideal world, like but realistically, not now, Intermac, but like, who would you who would you think the Lions could get, like who's out there, even if he's contracted to a team?
I can't think of anyone. First of all, the
Mm,
Lions are probably the least paying union, so I don't think
mm,
people will come to the Lions. We are like what in football they call the selling club.
mm,
That's what we are. So it's either we get one from the development, or we
mm.
actually scout for one. So that those are our only options. We because I don't think you would actually go to the Bulls and get a Pollard or who's that guy who left for the Sharks and went to the Bulls? I can't remember his name.
Oh
He was
yeah,
also
yeah. Chamberlain left the Sharks and he went to the Bulls, but now he's at Newcastle Red Bull, formerly
Yeah.
Newcastle
okay.
Falcons. Yeah. Chamberlain's a good
Yes.
player. He's also limited. His kicking isn't great from the tee. His kicking out of hand is quite good, and so we wish him the best. I was quite disappointed when Chamberlain left because Chamberlain left at the same time as Bosch, and they both could cover
Yes.
fly off and fullback, even though they were both somewhat not so great on defense. That's why Siamasuku was such a revelation when he got to the Sharks, even though he didn't play the first 6 months after he arrived from the Toyota Cheetahs. I can mention Toyota, but. Um, uh, Masuku would bring the ball to the line, and Masuku could tackle you out your shoes and stuff. So, which is something that Chamberlain and Bosch couldn't do, and those are the other options. But the thing is that with Chamberlain and Bosch left at the same time, um, it was a bit annoying because we needed like at least one guy who could cover both. And what would happen with Chamberlain and Bosch is one would start and play poorly, and the other one would play really well off the bench. Then the next week, that guy who played off the bench well would start and play poorly, and the other one would play well off the bench. So they were both more impact players because they did have the. I know I'm saying this because there's a lot of criticism of Chamberlain, but I think he's a decent player. And then the criticism of Bosch, who's now playing D2 in France, making tons of money for Brive. um, his thing is that he never developed defensive solidity. The Stormers are in a great position because they have Sasha Feinberg and Gomezulu. They have Yuri Mateo, who's 1 year older than Sasha Feinberg and Gomezulu, who they've been developing really well, very patiently, holistically. And then on top of it, they have Kyle Smith, who's their third choice fly off. But they probably won't play him in because he's so young. He played really well in the Currie Cup, by the way. They probably will play Damien Willemse at fly off if need be because they don't have Mani Libok anymore. He's at the in playing in Japan. Um, John, quickly, your depth chart at the Bulls in terms of fly off is Andre Pollard, Keegan Johannes, and who else if besides those two?
Well, Huisson and Vollet, according to me, are both injured currently.
Yeah, yeah.
But Huisson seems to be a bit of a crystal goose.
Mm,
Like he's a pretty good player, but he seems to get. I think the longest run he's had in the past 2 years has been 3 matches, and
mhm,
then he seems to get injured, which sucks because he's actually a very good all-rounder. Like he's not an exceptional attacking fly half or an exceptional defending fly half or an exceptional kicking fly half, but he's the sort of guy, we're going to play this game, we're going to win it. It won't be pretty, it won't be ugly, but it will be exactly that. It'll be a game, and you can sort of rely on him to be competent in everything without being exceptional in anything. It's just that he's so stuck with injuries the whole time. And then Kate Volhitter now is on his third hamstring injury, I believe,
mm.
hamstring or some form of leg injury. I know it's the second or the third time that it's the same injury. I don't know if it's the same leg because that would obviously exacerbate the condition. I think for Andre Pollard, the biggest thing is, and then obviously we have Keegan Johannes, who I think is actually a very dynamic 10, and he fits in well into the Bull system. He brings some dynamicism to the Bulls backline. Like he gets them going on the front foot. I think Pollard has had actually a tough couple of years coming in. I mean, he barely made it into the Springboks team for the 2023 World Cup. Very up and down Premiership. And then also recently he's had the birth of his second child. I think that's also a burden. Your sleep gets impacted, um, all those sorts of things. And I know people will say, "Oh, but he's a professional rugby player; they get all the help in the world." It's not the same. If your child is crying, you want to go and take a look and make sure everything's okay, even if mom is there or grandma is there or whatever. It brings a lot of distractions. I think though if he gets a good run at the Bulls, which they seem to be keen to give him, and especially under Ackerman, we could see some attacking nuance develop there. Him and Johannes could be very similar to what the Springboks did with Andre Pollard being, Mr. Reliable. We'll play it up channel one, chuck it up the guts, nothing too fancy. And then when the guys are getting tired, you bring on Keegan Johannes who can add some flash to it. Um, I also know Flannery said, not Flannery, sorry. Tony Brown said that he wants to work with Pollard because he remembers Pollard when he burst onto the scene being this dynamic attacking 10, almost what we get now out of Sasha Feinberg and Gomezulu, where the 10 is asking the questions, and because he gets to ask those questions and everyone is focused on stopping him, um, and making sure he goes to ground, that sort of opens the gap for the 12 or the 13 or the 14, and if the offload happens, it sticks. So yeah, I think it's also about taking care of Andre Pollard, because if we're honest, he's our only third choice. If we lose Marnie or we lose SFM to injury, who's the caller? Is it Yuri Mattia? Is it Keegan Johannes? And those are the only guys, according to me, in contention beyond the currently established three. Or do you stick Willemse at 10 for a test match? He's played there before. And not to do him a disservice, he's very good at 10, he's very good at 12, he's exceptional at 15. Um, but I don't think it's the type of role that brings out the best in him. I think 12 and
Yeah,
15
I think
is
the last
is
time he played for the Springboks at 10
was against
was
Ireland.
against Georgia. I think it was against
Was it
Georgia in
against
the World
Georgia?
Cup. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
And he
Yeah,
stepped a lot of guys, but I mean, it's the Georgian guy, so it was like a bit of a step down. Yeah, we'll have to
yeah.
see. The thing about Van Goosen is that I vividly remember him and um, Elton Jantjies breaking through. Johan Goosen at the Cheetahs and Jantjies at the Lions. And Jantjies was also slightly more bulkier. And Goosen was a bit of an attacking player, but I still feel like physiologically, Heineke may have picked him a bit too soon, and then maybe didn't. Okay, you're gonna pick a guy who's like thin, but at fly off, but then maybe adjust the tactics so he doesn't get exposed. And then it was Johan
Yeah.
Goosen between Sam Whitelock and the line to score, and Sam Whitelock didn't want to run past him. He wanted to run through him. And of course, it's never been the same because he's constantly had injuries. Also, he had a checkered career, moving to France and then not being happy there, wanting to get out of his contract, and then saying he literally retired for 2 years, and then he went back to play one more year in France, even though he had, I think like had 2 years back on his contract. Okay, guys, we're going to move swiftly on to a bit of news. So the news section of the podcast, the South African least obvious, the most obvious secret in South African rugby. Siya Kolisi is going to see out his contract at the Sharks to move to back to Stormers, understandably, because he wants to be in the city where his kids are living. He's unfortunately no longer with his partner anymore, and his former wife and kids are in Cape Town. He's all the way in Durban. Siya Kolisi, by the way, right now is in Eastern Cape, because a lot of the Sharks players have been given time off for this week when we play away to the Sail Sharks, and they're going to use a slightly more rotated team. So, Sibusiso, your thoughts on Siya Kolisi returning to Cape Town? There was some weird talk of like, it's going to like mess up some of the opportunities for Paul de Villiers, but I personally see it as a massive coup for the Stormers.
I also think it's a massive coup, but the first time I heard it, I thought the guy's following his new girlfriend. Apparently, she lives in Cape Town as well. So yeah,
Wow, you heard it here
yeah.
first.
So yeah, but I think it's always nice to go home. I mean, he started his professional rugby playing career there, and like you're saying, is sometimes you want to be closer to the kids. I also changed jobs because I wanted to be closer to the kids. So it's because they are only young for 18 years, and if you miss all that chance to see them growing and all of that, it you might be a present father, but you feel absent. So because it becomes a problem for you to. Because for me, my situation was I leave for work when they're sleeping. I come back when they're sleeping. So I actually miss the the whole time of them growing up. So it's good for him to go back to Cape Town. It's a city he knows. It's a team he knows. Hopefully the culture, it's the same culture he knows. And yeah, it's even going to be good for the Springboks, having your captain in the country, not leaving for overseas. It's actually a good coup for Dubie and his team. So yeah, I think he will thrive in Cape Town because I mean, his best buddy, what's his name? He's also in there. He still stays in Cape Town. Scaron doing. So,
Mm, yeah.
so it's pretty cool that he goes back to the environment he knows, familiar surroundings. So it's cool.
I saw Skara and his wife and his kids at Rondebosch Common the other day. Interesting recruitment from I think it's fantastic because like they've got quite a few loose forwards, but if you can add Siya Kolisi, you can play eight blind and open, and you can have that type of impact of the bench sometimes starting. I don't think it hinders a more traditional open sider like Paul de Villiers, because obviously Paul de Villiers has been playing really well. The Stormers used him quite cleverly off the bench this week as sort of a tactical change. And the Stormers, Jean, getting Siya Kolisi next season. They're playing well this season, but they're getting Siya Kolisi next season, and they're getting Wilco Low. Your thoughts on the recruitment down in Cape Town?
I think I think they're being incredibly astute, right? So we know that the Stormers aren't they don't have the amount of money to spend that some of the other teams have, and they have to be a bit more frugal. Um, I think they're being extremely clever about it, and I think Dobson's really bought into the bomb squad strategy. I mean, Sia is great starting a match, right? But now imagine, and this works both ways. You've got to deal with Sia counter-rucking, going for the ball, tackling your guys, being in the wide channels on attack for 60 minutes. Then Dobson gets to play a ace in the hole. He brings in Paul de Villiers, right? Now you have to deal with a young guy who's got 20 minutes, maybe 35 minutes to prove his point in the game, right? So he's amped, he's ready, he's feeling like, well, I'm only playing 35 minutes. In this 35 minutes, I'm emptying the tank. It's done, you know? And vice versa. You can start Paul de Villiers and think like, okay, well, I have to deal with an Energizer bunny, but he might not be that tactically clever, right? And then minute 65, when the Energizer bunny goes off, now Sia gets brought on for 15 minutes. Now you have to deal with your tired players being counter-rucked by Sia. He's got that calming presence on the field. He's happy to be a voice from the back to just say, let's think about this 2 seconds longer. I don't think it's the right call. I think the Stormers are really very clever in the way they're approaching it. And if you take a look at the people they're bringing in, it's not about the name. It's about what do they add to the team. You know, it's not about Sia being Sia. It's about what can Sia add to the team. He can add leadership. He can add calmness. He can bring the squad up when they're down. When they're up high, he can bring them down and say, listen, guys, we still have, yes, we're up 20 points. There's still a rugby match to play. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So I think they're being very, very clever in the way that, they're approaching it. And I do think that in 2026, well, the 2026-2027 season, the Stormers are going to be a team to contend with. They're really going to be a team to contend with, both in the URC um, and possibly in the Champions Cup, which is where I think Dobbo looks to make his name, is them potentially chasing down that Champions Cup.
Yeah. In the post-match press conference after the most recent game against the Bulls, Dabo was talking about like really going for the Champions Cup and getting home quarterfinals and playoff games now that we can. Because initially when we participated, we actually could get home finals, but we had to like the Cheetahs in the Challenge Cup still had to host it in a European city. But now we can actually have it in South Africa. From a Sharks perspective, maybe Eben Etzebeth will follow Siya Kolisi. He might also want to sort of retire in Cape Town. The Sharks are are also going to lose, unfortunately, Grant Williams, even though he has a year left on his contract, because the Sharks system now with this owner, even though there've been significant investment in terms of player stock, the current owner likes the idea of selling people with a year left, so there's some sort of remuneration. What's also worth noting that more of like in a football manner, you don't see a lot of free transfers in football, but you would see a lot of free transfers in rugby. That's why I always get somewhat annoyed when people, especially on Facebook, say like, "Oh, they bought this player." You didn't pay the other person, so but maybe like a sign-on fee or whatever. So Grant Williams is going to depart. And then Siya Kolisi is going to depart. So the Sharks are going to, would have been nice to have kept young Batu Klekane, more of a blindside four-lock. And because then we would have had sort of the whole set of young players in, yeah, Janus Potgieter, open-sider in Matt Romeo, eight in Nick Hatton, and then blindside in Batu Klekane. But maybe I'm hoping that as much as I rate Pepsi Buthelezi, he also sort of steps up. He's very talented and obviously very experienced, but the problem is it's just all our loose forwards, none of them actually like play up to the Sia level, but now Sia's departing. So we'll keep an eye on that closely. Like I mean, Stormers are formidable right now. So and you're completely right in saying the Stormers actually after having quite a lot of financial turmoil to the point that I used to call them Western financial problems. They actually sorted their books out, and they do have outside investors. But the thing with the Stormers outside investors that's different from the Sharks and the Bulls is their outside investors actually sort of initially brought in a system of austerity, saying let's just hold back a little and sort of sort things out. But now, because of the lure of playing of living in Cape Town, I mean, Kobus Reinach openly spoke about like moving to Cape Town, and his wife wanted to live there, and the mountain and everything like that. They're being very clever in terms of their recruitment and sort of depth strategy and their rotation, because the Stormers rotate, but they still keep winning. Other teams rotate and they sort of struggle. We'll move on now to previewing the five EPCR games for the South African teams, starting with the Bulls game this Saturday. Um, Kicks off at 3 p.m. against Bristol Bears, the English team, who are doing quite well. Jean, your early thoughts on this, considering Ackerman said he's going full uh, go on this game? Because Ackerman said like the first game against Bordeaux, they went like first team. The second game they rotated, but for these next two games, even though the one's at home and the next one's away, they're going to play the possible best team.
Is this game at home, the one against the Bulls?
Bulls versus Bristol at Pretoria at 3 p.m. South African time. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh,
I think the altitude will play into the favor for the Bulls. Looking at the main senior squad, and please take it for what it's worth. These Bristol Bears is stacked, but like stacked with the type of underrated internationals, that don't necessarily make anyone's first 15, but you're definitely going to know about them. I mean, you've got AJ McGinty playing fly half for them, Benhart, Janse van der Rensburg playing center. He's had some absolutely fantastic games. Ellis Genge on prop, couple of big guys here, Max Leahy, James William, Joe Bailey, Joe Owen. There's a lot of good guys. Louis Rees Zammit on wing. So, there's a lot of, I think it's a very underrated team. They're flying under the radar, but they're on a 7-game winning streak, 6-game winning streak, sorry. So it's going to take some beating for them. You're going to have to punch up. I think the Bulls' way into this game, if Ackerman sticks to his word and goes full in, break them down up front. If you crack them up front, we know that Ellis Genge is maybe not the strongest scrummager. So, lining up your Volko low opposite him, Akker van der Merwe, punish them where they can't really match you that much. Um, P- Pollard on Loftus should be able. He was supposed to be able to do it in Cape Town. So if he's able to knock them over from halfway at Loftus, I mean, why not? I think it's definitely going to be tough for Bristol to live with the conditions. When it's hot here now, it's really hot. It's really hot. Like we're touching 32, 33 every other day that the sun is out. If it's raining, it doesn't really cool down that much. It's still around 22, 23 degrees Celsius. For these guys coming from the north, where I saw a post on social media about under 5 training being done in -4 degrees Celsius. That swing from going from minus to +22 is going to be huge. So I don't know how long they're going to be in country before that, but the altitude's going to take a toll. You know, I think the Bulls, just by playing Bulls rugby, can find their way in, but it's definitely going to be a hard game. It's not going to be, the Bulls walk onto the field, the guys pass out. That sort of looked the way that they were going with Bordeaux, that Bordeaux was going out on their feet, and then Bordeaux just managed to get it into that second or third gear in the second half, and then it looked like the Bulls were out on their feet. Um, so yeah, I think if the Bulls pace themselves, we can be in. Pollard, Johannes, yeah, but I think definitely up front, put your best 8 forwards on the starting line, break everyone in the opposition team early, and then definitely do a bomb squad. Even if it's a 5-3, do a 5-3 bomb squad. Hanekom, Elrich Low, capable of going the full 80. They've got the tank. So I would definitely say, listen, let's let's get a bomb squad going here because they might be able to match the starting forwards. I don't think they'll be able to match the bench forwards. So I think that's the way in for the Bulls here.
Yeah. Also, disappointed you didn't mention Tom Jordan, massive fan. Everybody on the Global Game Lights uses Tom Jordan. If anybody doesn't know, born in New Zealand, plays for Scotland. Basically, sort of the Timu version of Damien Willemse. We move on to the next South African game in the Champions Cup, which is Saturday at 7:30, where it's the Jaws Derby. It's Shark Week. It's Sale Sharks versus the Natal Sharks. And as I said earlier, and we can see it in the video on the Shark social media as well as Reddit, where and Siya Kolisi's Instagram, where he's on a plane to Eastern Cape. The Sharks are rotating somewhat for this game, so hopefully we'll see guys like PK Sobatle play. I'm eager to see the team they actually send over. Um, I think, like the Bulls game, this is going to be a tight game. I hope the Sharks win. I hope that we make the playoffs for the Champions Cup instead of drop into the Challenge Cup, because I don't think we're really going to go for the Challenge Cup. Maybe we'll see. Because last year we dropped into the Challenge Cup and they were like, "Look, the message from ownership was like, look, we won it the year before, so let's just focus on the URC." And then we just put all our eggs in the URC basket. So yeah, Sale. The interesting thing is that I've been watching the Prem games more closely recently, because South African teams are going to play Prem games in the Champions Cup. So that's why I understand that Sale actually doing quite well, or they're doing as well as Northampton and the other team I forget. Saris not so much. So I mean, we defeated the Saris in Durban, and I'll ask Sibusiso to tell us what that experience was like in the rain in a moment now, because he was there. Um, so yeah, I depending on the team, it's difficult to, obviously we're recording this on Monday. It's difficult to know, but I hope we actually think. And yes, we'll probably make the playoffs in the Champions Cup and then lose, but it will still be an experience. So I hope, and I'm picking Natal Sharks by 3, and then Sharky over here. We can see him. What is this? He's he's picking Sale Sharks by 3. Oh, no loyalty. Oh, okay. So we move swiftly on to Quins versus Stormers, and Quins are not very good. So Stormers are playing away. Dobson said that they were going to rotate. CPC, we're going to go to you because you don't have a Stormers supporter on the panel. Um, Marcus Smith, it looks like he's being tackled into smithereens every time he plays with the Quins. He's the only real first team player still playing for them. You think the Stormers are going to go 11 games unbeaten?
I think the Stormers would win. I'm not sure. Is what's this boy? He used to go JP. He
Mhm.
played for the Lions. I think he went to Harlequins. I'm not sure if he still plays there. He's
Uh,
a bit of a ginger.
it's like Tyro Green, but
Darren
unfortunately he's
Green
injured. Yeah, he's a very good player.
is injured. Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember he used to play for Harlequins. But
yeah.
I think
Fullback.
even if the Stormers rotate, I think they'd still be a bit strong for Queens.
Mm.
Because I don't think Queens have been. as formidable as they used to be lately. So yeah, I really fancy the Stormers to actually win at least by 10.
Yeah, and the issue with the Quins primarily is that their forwards are powder puff, and that's not going to go well with the Stormers because even their second line is quite
Mm.
grisly. Yeah, so before we move on to the Challenge Cup, tell us what the experience was like watching the Sharks defeat Saracens, almost losing at the end, by the way, in the
Yeah,
rain.
almost lose. No, it was actually awesome because I was sitting on the far side, not in the main grandstand. So I was literally basically teaching my wife what is what and whatnot. So most of the time, I was basically telling her what's going on and what's happening and whatnot. So yeah, so it was nice of her to actually decide to buy the tickets
Mm.
because she took me over there. It was my birthday weekend,
Oh,
so
yeah.
she took me over there and actually bought the tickets. So it was a nice surprise that she would actually take me to a rugby game. Funny enough, there was a soccer game at next door. I
Oh,
think Orlando Pirates was playing some Culling Black Label 11. So it was pretty weird because even the traffic controllers thought we were going to the soccer game. We told them we're going to the rugby game next door. So it was awesome. Yeah, no, it was nice seeing most of those English players. Because I haven't seen them live, so I'm used to our guys live. So
Yeah.
what I found interesting how the Sharks were warming up.
mm.
So what they had all the fringe players, the entire bench plus the fringe players. They were all kitted up in all the like same thing what the Springboks do. They would have even guys who are not in the match day 23 actually kitting up for the warm up and actually going hard at each other because it makes sense when they say a guy got injured in the warm up because those guys were going hard at each other. It felt like it was a game before the game. So
Mm.
I was actually because even Batu Flegane was stripped. I don't
Mm.
know if I sent you the picture. Batu Flegane was stripped for the warm up, and
Mm.
they would go hard at rucks and everything. So I was quite impressed with that. So it was very interesting, but the rain almost disturbed us because I was literally soaking wet before I bought the poncho.
Yeah,
So it was a great experience.
yeah.
Yeah, watching an Investec game, and they actually gave
Interesting.
us
Yeah.
those Investec hits. I don't know what's mine.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, yeah. You watched the Champions Cup game and not a URC game. Thanks for the insight, though, because I was last at the Stormers Connacht game. That's the last game I watched live, and I went early to watch the backs and the forwards were warming up separately, and they weren't necessarily going like full on at each other. So that was interesting. Now we move on to the Challenge Cup, and we'll stay with you, Sibusiso. You are taking on the Lyon from
Yeah,
France
yeah.
at 3 p.m. On Saturday. No, I lie. Not 3, 5:15 p.m. So it won't clash with any of the other games. Your early thoughts on this game?
I think I fancy our chances, and the fact that number one we're playing at home, and the two games we lost were actually away games, and they were narrow defeats. I think
Mm,
we lost by 8 in Italy against Benetton, and we lost by 4 against Red Bull. So, and the fact that Lyon also is coming to the game with 2 defeats, and we also have 2 defeats. So, I really fancy our chances. And if you look at what just happened against the Sharks in the URC game, I think the guys are going to be in a good mood and quite confident to actually go into this game and actually register the first win of the tournament. So yeah, I think even if Cash decides to rotate, hopefully he'll start Hashim Pete and because he really likes so what Cash does URC is Rappies and the champions the EPCR is for Nico Stay, so that's
mm,
what he does. And yeah, so I'm hoping that we even if we rotate, I think we're gonna have a new Loose forward, Renzo is going to come into the team. Siva Poma is also likely to start. So, and in the wings, I think we'll see Rabs if he's fit. And hopefully, because there were rumors that Henko van Beek could be back fit again, but I'm not sure about that. So I'm hoping that it's true. So that because that guy, I think without injuries, he would have been there with what's that guy's name from the Sharks, the center, the Springbok center wing/wing.
Mhm.
So I think he would have been part of the Springbok setup by now.
Ethan Hooker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ethan Hooker, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he would have been part of the Springbok setup had he stayed fit. So hopefully, Cash will actually reshuffle the team because in the next 2 weeks we're playing this competition. Then we back in the URC. I think we're playing the Bulls if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, looking
Mm.
forward to that.
Let's have a look. So they play Lyon this week, but who do they play next week? Let's have
I
a
think
look
we're
here.
playing Upas, something like that.
Okay.
I'll tell you now. It's USAP.
Oh,
Perpignan.
Is it a
Yeah.
French team?
Perpignan.
Is
Yeah.
it Perpignan?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Interesting. And they'll be away. So
yeah, they're
wait,
playing away.
yeah. This one's at home. Interesting. We'll see what the crowd get as well. Okay, so the final game in the Champions Cup, Challenge Cup, shall I say, from a South African perspective, is on Sunday when the Cheetahs take on Ulster from the URC in Amsterdam at a sold-out Amsterdam Rugby Club arena, 5,000 capacity. So that's pretty good. Jean, any insight on this for the Cheetahs?
The yeah, I don't know. The Cheetahs are gonna have to work hard. Ulster have been showing flames this season. Um, Jarnu, Trokkie Augustus playing phenomenally well for them. Werner Kok, looking like a completely different player than the guy who left the Sharks, playing extremely well
Oh,
for Ulster.
to be fair though, he had like when he came from the seventh string, he played okay, played okay. And then the final season before he left, he played fantastic. And then it was like, bye.
Yeah. Um, Sharks always delivering on transition. But yeah, so I think it's this one's going to be tough for the Cheetahs. I mean,
Yeah.
Ulster are really they're a
Mm.
dangerous team this season, and they seem to be delivering. They had a disallowed try over the weekend, which was phenomenal. Like if the rule of cool was ever to be applied in rugby, that was the moment to use the rule of cool and just be like, let's ignore the rules. It was too cool to get technical about it. But yeah, I don't know. The Cheetahs. If they can stay competitive, it'll be good for them. If they can chase a losing bonus point or a four try, just a four try bonus point, that'll be good for them. It would really be an upset, I think, for the Cheetahs to push Ulster, um, in this sense. Ulster is just they know who they are. They know how they're playing, and they're coming off of some big, big, big performances. They're going to be walking in chest out, ready to get ugly about it. So, you know,
And
I
the thing
love.
is, Ulster have rotated for this tournament, but still, even their second line players are pretty good, especially coming against a Cheetahs team who aren't playing competitive rugby. Although it'll be Ulster's, um, this will be Ulster's 11th competitive game since the start of the season. The Cheetahs played the Currie Cup and then had a massive break, and now this is only their third competitive game, and they've lost the other two
Yeah.
Challenge Cup teams, but they play against really good French teams in that one as well. Sibusiso, do you have any hope for your fellow Cats alumni?
Nah. They've lost. I think they've lost both games heavily.
Mm.
I think I see another heavy defeat on Saturday. I don't think they're gonna. They'll be lucky to score 10. I think because, like you said, Ulster, even their second line is quite packed, and they even if they rotate, the Cheetahs are unlikely to actually give them a hassle. because, like you just said, the Cheetahs are not playing competitive rugby like the other teams who are in the URC and whatnot. So yeah, I doubt they will actually give Ulster like some hectic problems.
Yeah. It's worth noting that we do have a Ulster supporter on the URC Rewind and the Interpro show, young Adam Lathan, and he's already indicated that he won't be available this Sunday, so I suspect he will be in the Rooi Lig district. On that note, that's our podcast for the thing. Excellent timing. Thank you for joining for the first time, Sibusiso. Hope to have you back. Jean, thanks again. Lisa B, Themikosi and Paul. I hope you guys are watching. Hopefully, have you guys back soon as well. Until next week, as we say every week, in Rasi, we trust.